Whenever we turn 18, we get the name of our soulmate. I just figured out the horrifying reason why. I was young when I realized that the place I lived was special. I didn't realize it at first since I had lived there my whole life. I thought it was normal for a city to not allow pets. I grew up never hearing the sounds of barking dogs or hissing cats. No one that lived inside the city border was allowed to have them. I thought it was normal for cities to have mandatory blood testing every week, with no explanation or seemingly any reason. I thought it was normal for cities to not have any jails. I thought it was normal for cities to give their citizens soulmates. I never really understood how it worked. All that we were told was that there were the matchmakers who were responsible for making the matches and sending out the tiny slips of paper that determined each citizen's love life and future. No one ever saw the matchmakers. No one knew how they were recruited. No one knew how they worked. All anyone knew was that it worked. Where I lived, there has never been a filing for divorce. The matchmakers are never wrong. Each citizen received their paper on their 18th birthday. Inside the piece of paper, there was nothing except a name, the name of your supposed soulmate. There was no telling how you would come across this person, no when or how. All anyone knew was that it would eventually happen. We were allowed to tell other people, allowed to ask around, try and seek out people that had the same name as the one on the paper, but it didn't matter. It couldn't be forced. Of course, literal eternal love and happiness does not come without rules. Every citizen had to follow the rules. They weren't too strange and seemed like a small price to pay for what you were getting in return. Most of the rules were simple. To name a few, there was no going outside under any circumstances after 2 a.m. No pets, blood tests, etc. There were also rules that we weren't allowed to know until we were older. We got the new rules on our 18th birthday, the same day we got our matchmaker paper. We called them slips. As I got older, I realized that our city was special, and that other cities didn't have what we had, but I didn't care. Life was good, life seemed simple. Our city was like a little paradise. It was happy. It was without issue. Vertical bar, vertical bar. It was the night before my 18th birthday and I couldn't sleep. This was to be expected, since knowing that the next morning you would know the name of your literal soulmate was enough to keep anyone up late. Usually I wouldn't have believed in such things like soulmates, especially as I got older, but it was hard to argue with evidence. My parents had gotten married in their late 20s and have stayed happily married ever since, both of their names matching what was on their slips. My older sister Caitlin got her slip last year, and though she's been through her fair share of failed relationships, she's currently in a happy one with some guy named Roger. I don't think I need to tell you the name that was on her slip. I wished Caitlin still lived with us. We used to share a room, but ever since she moved out, it feels empty with just me in it. By some miracle, I eventually fell asleep. My brain finally exhausted after hours of wondering what tomorrow was going to bring. I woke up the next morning, my arm groping for my alarm to turn it off just like any other day. It wasn't until I sleepily sat up that I realized that today wasn't like any other day. I swung my legs out of bed, my heart pounding in my chest as I tried to compose myself. I wanted to pull on a shirt and shorts as fast as possible, rush to the kitchen to get the envelope I knew would be addressed to me, but I didn't. I didn't want to be one of those people whose entire lives suddenly revolved around trying to find their soulmate. I needed to be calm. Taking a few even breaths, I slowly put on a shirt and some basketball shorts before opening my door. Chatter and the smell of waffles hit my senses instantly as I stepped out of my room. Turning the corner, I stopped, grinning. "Caitlin," I said, unable to contain my excitement at seeing her. Reaching her in a few short steps, I wrapped my arms around her in a hug, to which she enthusiastically returned. "What are you doing here?" I said, pulling myself away to look at her. "Oh, you seriously thought I would miss your birthday? Get real," she said, matching my grin as she looked at me. "Damn, you got tall," she said, looking at me. "He got it from his old man." My dad chimed in, and Caitlin rolled her eyes. Besides my height, I got a lot from my dad. I got his warm brown eyes, and I got his wavy, dirty blonde hair that I had always kept medium length. I looked so much like my dad that my mom always chimed in saying how I got her nose and smile. "Happy birthday, hun," my mom said from the counter, giving me a soft smile. "These are almost done, and we'll go out for your birthday dinner later tonight," she said, gesturing at the waffles, and I smiled. "Birthday waffles for the birthday boy?" My dad chimed in, putting an arm around my mom, and the simple movement made me remember something I forgot in the midst of the excitement. Is it here?" I asked them, trying to keep my voice even. My sister nodded, understanding what I was talking about. "On the front table." My legs felt like rubber as I walked the few steps into the hallway, instantly seeing the stark white envelope on the table. I picked it up. "Vertical bar, delivered to Theodore Schillings, vertical bar." I walked back to the kitchen, all eyes on me as I turned the envelope over, trying to act calm, act normal. I opened the envelope, pulling out 2 pieces of paper. One of them I knew would be the new rules. The other one was my slip. I looked at the bigger paper first. To peoples registered as 18 years as older, the following rules will come into effect. 1. Under no circumstances is anyone 18 years or older permitted in city waters. This includes all local rivers within city limits. 2. Under no circumstances will anyone 18 years or older be allowed to watch the television on the 14th of every month. 3. Under no circumstances is anyone 18 years or older permitted to use faucets after 12 a.m. This includes sinks, bathtubs, and showers. 4. Under no circumstances is anyone 18 years or older permitted to use any kind of elevator after 9 p.m. 5. Under no circumstances is anyone 18 years or older permitted to share their rules with people under the age of 18. And that was it. I honestly expected more, but was relieved there wasn't too many that I would have to memorize. They were weird, sure, but nothing that I wouldn't be able to do. After rereading the new rules, I put the paper down, heart hammering as I took my slip. Wanting to get it over with, I opened it, to which a single name was printed. Avery, I read, and reread the name several times. Avery, Avery, Avery. I racked my brain for people I knew named Avery. There was a girl in my history class, and maybe one who I had pre-calc with a few years ago. Before I could wonder further, Caitlin's voice cut me off. "What's the name?" she said, to which I handed it to her. It passed from her, to my mother, then my father. "Avery. Nice name," my dad said, handing my slip back to me. Chatter resumed between my parents and Caitlin while my mind was whirring. Some things made more sense now, like why I never saw adults kayaking in the river like I saw them do in other cities. I had told myself for a long time that once I got my slip that I wouldn't focus too much on it, but my mind kept coming back to the name that was burned into my mind. Avery. I still had to go to school, and got ready while Caitlin went out to reconnect with some high school friends. I ignored my texts asking what the name on my slip was, preferring to have that conversation in person. My friends were waiting for me at the bus stop eagerly. There was Jennifer, who was usually pretty quiet, and who I'd known since preschool. There was Joseph, who was a bit of a daredevil and a jock who I'd met during my freshman year. Lastly, there was Charles and Sophia, twins who were never separated, and who I'd bonded with sophomore year over our love for horror movies. Looking at us as a group looked weird, but we worked and had fun with each other. I was bombarded with the same question as I got close to them. "Whose name did you get?" "Avery," I said the first time I had actually said the name. It sounded nice coming out of my mouth. It sounded right. My friends nodded, followed by a moment of silence that meant that they were all trying to think of Averys that we knew. "Isn't there a chick in your history class named Avery?" Joseph offered, and I nodded. "Yeah, I'm trying not to think about it too much. I don't want to become one of those people who become obsessed with it," I said, although the name was really all I could think about. My friends dropped it after that, all except Joseph. He would chime in every few minutes, rattling off girls that he knew, all with the name Avery. He was still talking about it as the bus came, and as we walked up to the school. He really didn't have an off button, which meant that I was left to try and tune him out, nodding my head in agreement every few minutes.